Alright, so this one we're going to be doing using a control rig to manipulate the geometry. But we're going to do it from the side view. And if it's on wireframe, hit like this. Hit 6 to get the textures up. I'm going to select all the way down here. You have to select them all. If you select this one, it highlights that. It only bends it there. If you select them both, it bends them both. Something to always be aware of. I'm going to bend this over, touch the ground, drop a key, go to 31, drop a key, go to 16, drop a key, and let's toss a negative on this, and this will reverse it. There we go. Now I want to modify the motion by just the graph editor. So we can increase it, we can delay parts by just using the graph editor. So let's go back to here, open up our graph editor. But one thing you need to do, everything is selected, you can see them all highlighted here, is to cycle it, because we're going to be dealing with some offsetting. And I'm going to do a first kind of basic offset of increasing it over time. I selected the geometry. I think if you just turn that to R, it'll turn it to reference, and you can no longer select it. All right, I'm going to select the top 4, not the bottom one. I'm going to select the line. I'm going to hold down Shift, middle mouse click, and drag it over 1 frame. Then deselect. Then I have these top 3. Select 1, 2. Shift it over. Make sure you hold down Shift. And then select, Shift, middle mouse click, drag 1, 2, 3. As you see, it's getting bigger and bigger. Deselect. The last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you have this kind of more of a wave. Way more interesting than what we had before. But the bottom is probably moving way more than we actually need it to be moving. So now we're going to deal with scaling in here. So I'm going to select this bottom one. I'm going to scale it down to like a quarter of itself. So I'm going to select it, hit R for scale, and you want to scale from the middle. And the middle is not here, which is technically in the middle of the time. The middle is in between your high and low if you want to scale it and when you want to soften it on both sides. So in a sense, right here, when it goes through the 0 line is the kind of like the middle. But it doesn't matter. You have to just do it from this line anywhere on this line. You can do it from here, 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 or negative 1000. I'm going to hold down Shift, middle mouse click and drag. And I cut it down quite a bit. And now it's much softer. I come to realize that I should have probably done this at 60 frames, 61 frames instead of 1 second. It's moving pretty quick. But overall, this is going to work out pretty well. So I select the entire line, scale it down by a half. Let's see if I did it by half. Nope, they're very similar. I'm going to select that further one out and at least have it be like double the previous one. It's getting so that the motion's getting bigger. Excellent. And then let's look at this one to this one. That's looking pretty good. This one and this one should be identical, just timeline different. So I'm going to increase this one. So select the line. And then select this one. And this one. So I wanted to get past, I probably need to get to that line. And I have a little bit more of an overlap in there. It might be a little too big. right. Now I want to get the offsetting a little bit more under control, or get the... So what I'm planning to do is select the top part. I'm going to offset a couple more frames, and about here I want it to be kind of curved a little bit more. So select all your lines, and let's shift it over, and you can kind of see, oops, shift, I was scaling. There we go. Deselect. So here, I want this curvature to kind of start coming back. So select those and shift it over a couple, deselect, shift it over a couple more. So overall, I kind of like that. So now it's more focused on the top, that whippy part. You could, like right now, I'm overall pretty happy with this kind of whip effect. But we can really reduce the motion, say within these 3 squares. So 2 here and 2 here. So a total of 4 squares by using the same idea. So this is when it's too far out. So we can either modify the offset or tone down the rotation. Toning down the rotation is going to be the easiest bit. So I'm going to select all 3 of these. Select all 3 and scale it down a little bit. And you can see it pulls it in. Excellent. And I actually might scale the last 2 also, just to tone it back. There we go. Overall, it's looking pretty nice. But as you can see, it's still going a little too far out over here. I want to get it within that box. Largely it's these 2 here. So I want to still have those 2 selected. I'm going to shift it down the time. Oops. Get them scaling. There we go. And now it's kind of stuck in those 2 little squares. 2 on that side, 2 on that side. So you can see you can easily reduce it. It'd be maybe a little harder to make it bigger. That's why I start off really big and really tone it down. So an interesting question, this is something that's I don't often do, but say I wanted to slow this down by twice as much. It's a little tricky because you can't just scale it out from 1 to 31 to 61 in a sense, because like if you select everything, you can't really, like to doubling it, it's already way out over here. But there is a kind of a way to do it. So let's give it a shot. You may want to save the scene first in case we can't pull back a bit. We should hopefully be able to undo it. I need to select everything. I got to put a marker in 61, but I got to know where 31 is. So this is the magic one I need to pay attention to. If I can get this one to 61, then everything will be scaled evenly because I'm going to be scaling from this point and pushing everything out to here. Well, pushing this one to here, but that's going to scale everything evenly. So I'm going to place this here for the marker. I'm going to hit R for scale. Here's 30, so that's 31, that's the magic one. And I'm going to hold down Shift, click here, and hit R for scale, Shift, and scale that out. So I have to really pay attention to that key. I already lost track of it. Let me try it again. Got my eye on it, pushing it over. It's there. It actually looks like it lined up perfectly. But a lot of these keys may not be actually on an actual frame. If you click here, it'll jump to the next key. You can see it's 46.99. I got really, really close. So I want all these keys to actually be on a key. And it goes past 100. So let's go to And that 120. I'm going to hold down Shift, double click, it highlights everything. Right click, snap. Or you could just hold down Shift, drag and select everything, right click and snap also. And now let's put this back to, say, 61 frames. That's kind of what the cycle is now because I've increased it by double. And now it's a much softer motion. So that's where it got a little tricky in how to scale it up. You have to be aware of that first and last frame. Hopefully this makes sense. I'm going to frame it up, do a play blast, and be done.